Alright everyone, welcome back to another Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes video with Fat Phil. Today, we're going to be talking about farming prioritization. How do you know what to farm first? What criteria should you look at? What questions? How do you know whether it's better to build this or this first? And I'm going to kind of walk you through my thought process for this and show you guys some examples of things that you can use to determine your farming order for certain Galactic Legends, Journey Guide, whatever it is. I think oftentimes we just kind of we'll pick something and we'll go for that first, and it's not always the best decision. So please like and subscribe, comment down below. Let's give a shout out to our channel members for their continued support. If you're ever interested, y'all know where that link is. It's down below, along with a link to Discord server. Thank you guys again for all of your continued support. I really appreciate you. You are fantastic and have made this community unbelievably amazing. Let's get in here. Let's talk about farming prioritization. Alright, so I want to start off with kind of a shout to one of my channel members here, and that was Drozen Yogurt. So he asked this question in my members only section. He's like, currently farming materials for Leviathan so I can unlock this year. However, I'm 164 shards for Shorty. I'm a lot closer to Jabba. Should I use the resource to get Jabba while I farm shards and then farm, materials used? I'm pretty far from Leviathan relic-wise. I was like, well, what does close to Jabba mean, right? And I asked, like, this question right there, what's closer mean? That is so important. And then he sends this screenshot where all he's short on for Jabba is relic materials, right? He needs some relic 7s, needs some relic 8s, and otherwise, he needs the relic 8 on Han, he needs relic 6 on Greedo, and Aura, and a relic 7 on Fennec. Like, he's right there. And so I was like, yeah, like, and you can see I'm like, Jabba, and this is a great example of when you say close, add a little bit of context, because I'm going to ask that question. But this kind of helped inspire this video, because had he known the criteria I'm going to share, he would have known that Jabba was the obvious answer, right? So let's flip over here and let's talk through the criteria now. So the first thing you need to think about when going through prioritization is just, are they farmable or are they not? Now, for some of you, you're like, I'm never farming these new things. But for some of that, it's a very serious situation. Like, is it farmable or are they not? The Spectre characters right now, there's nowhere to farm these guys. So if you're trying to figure out, should I farm Ahsoka or Baylan? Well, at least Baylan's farmable, right? You can at least earn the shards for his characters. You can't do that for Ahsoka. And then even, are they rushable or not? Think about conquest units. How much can you actually rush getting to that character? Like, is there a reasonable way for you to get that character faster? Think about if you want Darkside Rey, the only way to get her is through Conquest, right? Now, compare that to, say, Luthen, where if you really wanted Luthen, he's still available in Conquest, but you can use your currency to get him. So there's how rushable are they? Are there more ways to unlock that character any faster? So that's just, again, keep those pieces of, logic in mind, that if it's not really something you can rush, not that you don't prioritize it, but you just have to prioritize getting as much of it as you can while you can. Whereas if it is something that you could rush, you can increase or decrease the priority depending on your need for it. And then come up with a reasonable time frame. Again, just guess, like, what's your time frame that you think it would take you to get X, Y, or Z? So for me, I can get Baylan right now within like a month, right? Realistically, with how I farm, it's going to be about a month because of all the work I've done. If I could farm Ahsoka right now, it would probably be, a month and a half, maybe closer to 2 months, because I have more shards to farm. So, may as well just go get Baylan, and then I can worry about getting Ahsoka, and, and there's other criteria that we'll talk about here, but that's kind of, come up with your time frame. Figure out, like, how long will it take you to get through that farm, and that way you have a better idea of the what you're really in for, right? And I'm probably 2 to 3 months away from Ahsoka. So, and the argument you make there is that if I get Ahsoka first, if I take longer to get Ahsoka first, how much does that offset me getting to Baylan? So keep that in mind. And that kind of leads right into this next question of availability. What's the availability of that character? So we've got, or farm. So we've got Jar Jar. I have Darth Revan as a placeholder for Leviathan. And then Jedi Knight Cal Kestis. Again, just using them as examples. It doesn't mean this is, but like, how available are they, right? What does that mean? So let's go to the journey guide here. If I wanted to farm Jar Jar, if I get all of his requirements done today, I cannot actively start his event because it's on a 3-month rotation right now. Same situation with Baylan. right? His event is not active right now. So even if you finished all of his requirements today, you cannot get to his event, right? There's nothing you can do. So it's one of those things where, until you do that, you can't unlock him, right? Again, just hope you guys understand that because even if I rush to get Balin today, I still can't do the event. So that could help you prioritize a little bit to know, all right, either I've got to go all in to get him in, whenever he becomes available next, or I've got some time, I don't need to rush. That's a really important question sometimes. Don't just rush right in and start doing refreshes of these characters until you know when you're actually going to be able to unlock that character. And again, this is all talking about the availability. Compare that to, say, Leviathan, where this is a monthly event. So if you finish Leviathan's requirements today, you can't start it until it rolls around, again, on like the 15th of a month. So it's not currently active. So the difference here between Balin or Jar Jar, if you miss out on Leviathan, you're missing a month, which that sucks. But that's not as detrimental as missing 3. But that can also give you this level of prioritization that if you realize you are close this month to Leviathan, maybe you rush it a little bit more. Or you realize that you're not going to get it this month, you stop rushing because you can wait. You've got more time. That's how you can prioritize. Figure out when are you actually going to be able to get that, and just kind of do the math, come up with that rough time frame and stick to it. Hey, can I rush this, or is it just not going to be something I can do? And then finally, you've got Jedi Knight Cal, who is in the journey guide, right? You can get him at any point in time. So in terms of priority, you don't need to rush him, because when you get him, you can just start it right away. It's not like if you're 5 shards short today and he's going to go away tomorrow. Like, he'll be there tomorrow, he'll be there 2 days from now, he'll be there 2 years from now. So that can help you, again, further prioritize that, hey, you know what? I can get Cal right now. I'm going to focus my resources on something I can obtain now, rather than something like Balin where it's going to take me 6 months or 7 months. Like, I'd rather just have something now today because it will help me. So again, that availability does play a really big role. And especially too, when you trade that over to Galactic Legends, who, like Ahsoka, if I finished Ahsoka's requirements today, I can start her event. That can also help you a little bit to know sometimes it's worth prioritizing the things you can do now, because there's no waiting period, right? There's no risk that you're going to miss Ahsoka because you missed it by a day. Next, do kind of a cost versus reward. What are you paying and what are you getting? And I've got Lord Vader, Leia, and Jedi Master Luke here, and I think this will, I felt these 3 GLs kind of really illustrate this well. Lord Vader is the second most expensive GL now that Ahsoka's here. And in terms of performance, I still will argue that he's a very good Galactic Legend. I know that's not a popular opinion, but I'm not here to have popular opinions. He is a very good GL. Is he worth spending 4 Relic 8s for? Yes. Is he worth spending those Relic 8s for instead of focusing on Leia? No. That's the, cost versus reward, right? Like, Leia is, cheaper. She performs better. It makes more sense. But is Lord Vader worth getting over somebody like Jedi Master Luke? Yeah, potentially. Like, I think Lord Vader's a better GL than JML. I love JML, but I think Lord Vader is a better Galactic Legend. I think he does have some better utility, and he's way better. He's better in PvE, and Luke is good in PvE, but I think Lord Vader's better. But this cost versus reward, like, Leia costs more than JML, but she's a better GL, so it might be worth getting the better one and spending those resources. So again, just food for thought there, that do kind of a cost versus reward. Like, hey, Drozen Yogurt, Leviathan is a better thing to have than Jabba. But he's so close to getting Jabba that the rewards he's going to get from that, it's not just about, this cost versus reward analysis is not just about, like, oh, how much does it cost to get the GL and what's the reward if I do? But if I get GL X first instead of GLY, what's my benefit, right? What am I getting out of that I wouldn't have otherwise? And so with, that Jabba situation that he was in, yes, Leviathan could get him fleet crystals, but he's a long ways from that. Jabba, he can get now, get better mods, potentially get better in Grand Arena, earn resources in other events, And that will help his account grow more, grow faster, and put him in a position to potentially get Leviathan, ahead of where he would have, right? And you've got to think of it in terms of, he might delay Leviathan by, say, a month. But if he went for Leviathan first and then went for Jabba, maybe he would be, to get both of those things, it would take him 2 or 3 months longer because he didn't boost his account early. So again, cost versus reward. Think of the total reward. Like, what all are you getting because you're going to have that in your account? Does it make you better? Next is the farming locations and node cost. Where are you going to have to farm to obtain that character? And I've got Afra and Starkiller here. I love using this example. And I'm like such a hypocrite for this, but it's so funny. So if we go to Dr. Afra, she has Hondo on an 8 energy node. And she has Sana on an 8 energy node in the Cantina. So she has 2 Cantina nodes. And then she has 2 hard nodes with Trip 0 and BT1. And I think BT1 is a 12 energy node. And Trip 0 is a 12 energy node. So very cheap, very easy characters to farm there. Starkiller has Mara Jade, who is on a 16 energy node. Yes, memory served me right. 16 energy node. And then he's got 3 characters in the Cantina. He's got Talon and Dash, who are both 16 energy nodes, and Kyle Katarn here, who is a 12 energy node. So to put this into perspective a little bit here, for the cost of farming both Sana and Hondo, that's the time it's going to take you to get Dash or Talon because of the energy, right? 2 characters on an 8 energy node is the equivalent of 1 on a 16. So you're going to spend way less time in the Cantina farming Dr. Afra than you are, say, Starkiller. However, you will spend a little bit less time farming energy, right, farming nodes, because Mara Jade's only an 80 energy node versus the 120 you're going to spend on BT1 and Trips. So Starkiller and Dr. Afra, they're not heavy characters in terms of Kyrotech, or in terms of signal data, sorry, but they are in terms of Kyrotech. So maybe that less energy you're going to spend on Starkiller results in more Kyrotech along the way, and that will lead you to get him faster. Again, I love to see the data on this because I think it'd be kind of funny, but that is something to consider, that like it's not as much signal data that you need for Starkiller and an Afra, but you need a lot of the Kyrotechs, and having that extra energy can add up over time. But also, and that's part of the node cost as well, looking at those two. But even think about these new remnants. This is 300 energy right here, right? They're each on 20 energy nodes. It's a lot of energy to farm these new guys, right? These new remnants. It's a lot of energy to spend there. Compare that to going after and farming like Captain Rex, Zori, Seer Junda, and, some of your Inquisitor characters who are on these 12 energy nodes, that you can farm 5 of these nodes for what you can farm 3 of the 20 energy nodes for. So you get way more, you're getting more characters with the same amount of energy. And again, I try to make sure that you guys always think about the totality of energy rather than just thinking about, I'm farming 5 characters. No, like how much energy are you actually spending, right? So that farming location and node costs are super important. And I'm not trying to deter you from farming the remnants, because the remnants are great. I think they're really good. They're going to be really important. But just keep that in mind, that as you're building these guys, that node cost does add up. Finally, the last thing here is help needed. And using Malicos and, Bo-Katan here is a good example. What all do they need? Like when you unlock Bo-Katan Mandalore, you're going to build Keller and Beck, and then Beskar and Mando, Paz Vizsla, IG-12, and Grogu. So you're going to have Bo and 3 of the members for her team. So for 5v5, you need to build 1 other character, which would be like Bo-Katan, or, which not that hard to do, right? Or even Sabine Wren can fit in there. Like, there's some options that you're going to have for this team. But for the unaligned Force users for Malicos, you need to go build Seer and Cal. You might want to use a character like Kylo Ren Unmasked or Ninth Sister, and then, Ahsoka Tano Fulcrum, or, build an Ufu team. If you don't have those built, it's a lot more work to invest in to get Malicos. And this goes beyond that. Think beyond just, like those 2 characters, but, GLs and other things. Do you actually have the help needed to make that farm work? Because if you don't, then you're adding time. You know, it's not just, oh, one character, it's what else do you need to do? Because a lot of times I think we get kind of caught up in, I want to build the flashy stuff, I want to build the cool things. And, you know, another even better example here would be Dark Trooper Moff Gideon versus Admiral Trench. Like, many of you might have all of Trench's requirements at relic levels. There's no way you have Dark Trooper Moff Gideon, most of you have Dark Trooper Moff Gideon's team at relics. You know, maybe some of you do now with Lightspeed bundles, but for a long time that wasn't the case. So do you have the help needed for that character that when you do unlock them, there's not additional work? Because otherwise, that should have been taken into account. So hopefully this gives you guys kind of some idea of how to prioritize your farms. That it's not just about, is it the best thing or is it the newest thing? But the full thing of how long will it take you to get there? Is it even available? Like, are you under a time crunch? You know, I said this even when it came to Jar Jar, that you've got to decide when you're going to get him. Is it 3 months, 6 months? You know, is it round 1, round 2, whatever unlock time period? Because messing up costs you 3 months. And how different that is comparative to going for Leviathan where it's only a month. Or someone like Cal who's just going to be there no matter when you get there. Because that can really help you prioritize to figure out what makes the most sense. Finally, if I can, you know, wrap this all up and say like, hey, you know, what can you expect out of other videos like this, you know, farming advice from Fat Phil in 2025? I want to start trying to make sure that we're thinking more and more about mid-game players. The mid-game is one of these areas that I have really lost contact with simply because my account is growing to a point where I'm not in that position that a lot of you were in anymore. You know, that many of you, when it comes to farming Balin or Ahsoka, will have a much tougher decision than I did because I literally couldn't farm Ahsoka, but I could farm Balin. When you have both of them available and you're trying to figure that out and gauge it, hopefully videos like this help you understand that. You know, you'll know the impact of Balin. You'll know the impact of Ahsoka. You'll know which one makes more sense for your account. You know, I would say easy criteria there to look at. If you get Morgan and if you get Great Mothers, do they help your Night Sister team or do you still have to build them? Comparative to building the Ahsoka characters where, you know, those are kind of feeding off of each other and you get their team. So let me know your thoughts. Again, I love you all. May the Force be with you, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers, my friends.